Well, hello, that's me again. Today is Monday, I would say, August 5th, 2024. And let's start with what pretty much everybody talks about, and we can talk about this here. So they are reporting right now that there is stock market news today. Dow plummets 900 points. I think so. It plummeted more than that by now. But Nasdaq and as Standard and Poor's 500 sync as global sell-off intensifies. Let me explain that how you have to take this, in, so to speak. I'm not a specialist in finances, believe me. I'm not pretending to be. That is why I never give any kind of the economic, let alone financial advice. And but one thing which you have to keep in mind constantly, and this is everybody who has half brain, they know this. Stock market is not economy. It is the basically platform for speculation. And as any speculation, as we already know, the volume of the market means absolutely nothing. For example, we can sit here and talk about Boeing whatever we want, and there are huge problems with the Boeing, by the way, incurred by none other than financial people, because obviously Boeing went to complete financial, and as the result we had, Boeing 737 MAX, we have people killed, and we have now the reputation being destroyed. However, even today, having said all that, for all Boeing's problems, which some of them could be terminal for all I care, especially when you look at this good God, masterpiece of engineering, I'm being facetious of course, like Starliner, which have now 2 American astronauts stuck in the International Space Station. We have to keep in mind, Boeing produces things. It produces aircraft. Some of them bad, like Boeing 737, or as Mr. Trump suggested, let's, rebrand it, something else. And it will become obviously better because of that. No, the issue is they produce a massive number of all kinds of the aircraft, especially commercial aircraft, and some of them are, masterpieces of engineering. They evidently, I believe, I could be wrong, don't quote me on that, they could be, restarting the production of at least cargo variant of 747, which is the outstanding aircraft. Obviously, they have the issues with their, quality assurance system. We know that now for sure, and people who talk about it from Boeing, they somehow end up killed. But the issue is Boeing, even at the pinnacle of its development, which came, I would say, 2010s. If you look attentively at that time, at the whole situation surrounding that and surrounding stock market, you would find this, capitalization of some Facebook or what have you, which was higher, it was worth more than Boeing. What, may I ask you, Facebook does produce? Nothing, except for the, psychiatric disorders, but other than that, it's nothing. Yeah, don't give me this crap about, they have data centers somewhere. Well, guess what? Data centers are made of the, silicon, they made of the concrete, they made of glass, they made of the metal, they have all those ventilation fans, and, so they have supercomputers and things of this nature. Guess what? It's tangible, it's material, you can touch it, and they produce, for the most part, positive, and useful function. What does stock market produce? Nothing. Virtual money, zeros in the computers, and a bunch of the speculators, especially big fish, which actually, buy and sell all kinds of crap in the air. And now they say, the American economy is just, going bananas, and, it sinks because of the stock market sink. No, I have news for you. American economy was sinking before anything was happening with the stock market. If, in fact, American economy was sinking since 2008, while stock market was growing. And those who do not believe me, well, how about you asking yourself about your background? If you're some kind of the investor or cryptocurrency trader, well, then you have no clue about economy. Pardon me, if you have the Harvard PhD from economics, that means you do not have real understanding of the modern economy, how complex it is, and that's primarily it is driven by the real economy, physical economy, not just service economy, however important, and which is of course the derivative. It is the foundation of the economy, which is beyond the grasp of all those armies of the imbeciles who still believe that stock market somehow reflects the situation in the economy. It does not. And so when it's collapsing now, it's just merely, it was postponed from the collapse when in reality we know how United States economy performed. And let me tell you, we know how it performed. I write non-stop for many years now that warfare is the geopolitical instrument of the first order. That's what defines your high technology. That's what defines your industrial capability. And, well, there is another thing, which is, of course, people have to keep in mind. For example, if you compare the size of Russian economy, a real size of Russian economy, it is the fourth economy in the world by far. It's actually dwarfing German economy. But yeah, you know what, you have people who, slept through all lectures on some garbage, pseudo-academic garbage, and in some economic faculties, and they say, oh, we know this model, and well, yeah, I know very many models, So, and yeah, I'm not talking about models, of course, you know what kind of models I'm talking about, but so no, it doesn't matter. If you do not understand how the thing works, then you are nobody. You are a speculator. You only know buy and sell for the profit. And whatever you are selling, primarily snake oil, yes, your tech sector is primarily, guess what? It's primarily social media, all those garbage, on the internet, which is, for example, I cannot stop, screaming at the all kinds of the programs I have downloaded to my computer, which every time, almost every 2 months, they come up with some, update. Guess what? The update primarily in the front end, you look some functions which are absolutely useless. But then again, IT departments, believe me, I know, I worked with IT departments in the real economy and aerospace industry, and we had this wonderful conversation between each other, and they say, you know what, yeah, we're self-leaking ice cream cone. So yeah, we know that, and I'm not gonna go there. Anyhow, this is the situation economically right now. Let's go to the other situation, which is situations which are absolutely critical. And I will start from the very, strange thing, you might say, but it's not. Here is the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, SVR. And guess what they're writing? And this is report. This is from the official site of the Foreign Intelligence Service of the Russian Federation. And here they are. Press Bureau of the Foreign Intelligence Service, August 5. The Press Bureau of the Foreign Intelligence Service of the Russian Federation reports that according to data received by SVR, the United States is planning the next stage of a long-standing and unsuccessful campaign to isolate Russia in the world sports movement. This time, a series of high-profile investigative publications, correctly stated in the quotation marks because it's going to be complete BS, is being prepared about allegedly revealed doping abuses in Russian high-performance sports. The focus is on the disciplines in which our country is globally recognized leader. And I agree. So the United States is simply, they are sports functionaries and political technologists who drive their, virtual policies of the United States. They're envious. And so the project is supervised by the ex-heads of Moscow anti-doping laboratory, defectors Rodchenkov and Sobolevsky. It is believed that they have retained stable ties, quote unquote, with coaches. So yeah, and if they're gonna be selling the same crap as Solzhenitsyn was selling, all those dissidents, or what Max Boot sells. So it's same old people who tell United States what it wants to hear, and that's why United States cannot win freaking single war, because it's never prepared to anything, and it doesn't have actually resources to do so. Same here. And as correctly as SVR states, one can only be surprised by the impudence, Pettiness, correct, pettiness, and most importantly, short-sightedness of the Westerners. After all, their frankly unsportsmanlike behavior is increasingly rejected by the global majority. As for Russian athletes and coaches, they were, are, and will be the subject of the widespread admiration of fans who want to see sports outside politics. They nail it. I mean, and again, they produce many press reports, you know, but this sports thing against the background of a catastrophe, which this Olympics is, in which United States and the Western world actually corrupted and basically destroyed international Olympic movement, it is a very critical piece. Because this is exactly what is happening. It is pettiness. They cannot compete. They don't like to lose. Because basically winning by any means, including if you basically kill your opponent, is the only way they know how to do it. This is what this country has become, sadly. You know, and it was especially, you know, peaking itself, well, it's American exceptionalism, but obviously after the collapse of the Soviet Union, which was wrongly perceived as was the makings of the United States, yeah, they live in this, you know, confabulated world where United States did everything, and they don't understand that essentially they are becoming very much isolated. And well, what can I say? Now that this what we would call the sore losers, well, you can look attentively at the U.S. military, and pardon my French, again, make no mistake, I do not make the broad, generalizations in terms of there are many people actually in United States military who are not idiots by no means, who are courageous people, good professionals. But when you look at the top brass or whatever is, you know, presenting itself as the top brass of Pentagon, this is ridiculous. I mean, these guys are unprofessionals. Guess what? They're petty. They invent things. They bought, they swallowed hook, line, and sinker of the Ukrainian propaganda. And guess what? That as the result, they sit now just in the middle of the sewer because they need to face the reality. They don't understand warfare. They don't know how to fight it. And yeah, generally, well, if you look at attentively at American military history, not impressive, honestly, except for obviously the Pacific theater of operations during the World War II. And how can I say it? I mean, guys, just go back to school, learn things, not from the fairy tales. And that is the pettiness. I write about this in my latest book, well, not just latest, practically everywhere. So if that hasn't been enough, we have this situation that it continues to stay in the focus. And again, yesterday, Mr. Rybkov, Deputy Foreign Minister of first Deputy Foreign Minister of Russian Situation, second Foreign Ministry, and he is the second one in line, you know, chain of command in foreign ministry, and he talks about that. U.S. heeded Moscow the escalatory message, Russian deputy foreign minister. And the Russian defense minister said that the July call focused, and he's talking about this famous call now of Mr. Belousov talking to Mr. Austin, and he was focused on preventing security threats and reducing the risk of potential escalation. The previous call was dedicated to the exchange of views on the situation around Ukraine. Rybkov noted yesterday that some signs indicate that the signal that was sent by Russian side to Washington, and I believe not only to Washington, but also to some other capitals controlled by it, has reached them. We have avoided a new cycle of escalation. And the question now comes again, what was it all about? There are all kinds of speculation, up to the point that they called, Belousov called Austin, said that to prevent attempt on the assassination of Putin. Could it be that? Well, it's certainly not excluded, but I mean, no, this is not it. In this case, Mr. Either Bortnikov, who is the big honcho of FSB, or Mr. Patrushev would call, and talk to Mr. Burns, the CIA guy. So, no, I think so. It was primarily about those F-16s, and it has everything to do with this. Let me show you. If you remember, in June, 2021, namely in the 30th of June, their mighty United Kingdom, I'm being facetious, their boat, which is HMS Defender, allegedly the uber pooper super, destroyer, while in reality, actually, it's, primarily as any, nowadays NATO junk, it's not survivable in the modern war on the sea. Mr. Putin actually explained what they were trying to accomplish, and this is what he said. When Russians actually pushed that thing out and they warned them that we're going to attack you. Even if the destroyer Defender had been sunk off the coast of Crimea, this would not have led to a third world war. Vladimir Putin believes this provocation does not bother the president, unlike the military development of Ukraine by NATO countries. So it was the 30th of June of 2021, and here is his quote, direct quote. And however, it would be incorrect to claim, he said, that this incident could have led to the outbreak of the New World War. You said that the world was on the brink of the Third World War. No, of course not. Even if we had sunk the ship, it would still be difficult to imagine that the world would have been on the brink of a Third World War. Because those who do this know that they cannot emerge victorious from this war, Putin stated. So that was then when people said, oh my gosh, it's at the pinnacle of the tensions between Russia and, this Chihuahua from the United Kingdom. No, and NATO. No, it wasn't the pinnacle. We know that half a year after that, basically, the special military operation started. The question is, and what Rybkov comments on and what Belousov called Austin, was primarily about the fact that they came up with a harebrained scheme, which they're capable because they are, covered basically in NATO, and the only thing they can do is hide behind their proxies. So the idea was about those F-16s, which are in Ukraine, which in reality are not in Ukraine yet. Most of them are in the hangars in Romania. And this has everything to do with these comments by Putin and the warnings which have been issued for the long time now by Mr. Putin himself and all kinds of the high-level Russian officials. And the question is, the idea of NATO is that to use the jump airstrips. So the jump airstrips will be located in Ukraine, of course, but the F-16s will be stationed in Romania and possibly Poland. That is so smart, I'm being facetious. They're just morons, So, and they think that they can avoid casus belli. Well, Russians already stated there will be casus belli, and what's gonna happen, those airfields in Poland and Romania will be freaking obliterated, together with the personnel who service those planes, and of course not those Ukrainian pilots, non-Ukrainian pilots who will decide to end their life in completely, in infamy. So what can I say? That's what is this all about, most likely, because Belousov told Austin that, yeah, if you think so that you can get away with this, well, guess what? The Romania and Poland, which, by the way, are members of NATO, they are second-rate, even the third-rate members of NATO. They are kindled to thrown into the Russian war machine just to be consumed. But again, they're still NATO. Russians warned probably that, yeah, we're going to attack, and that will be it. And the United States, most of all, is afraid, tremendously afraid of actually facing the expansion of the conflict, in which, as you might expect, if God forbid goes like this, conventionally Russia can, set in NATO back to the before they even existed, including the Brussels headquarters. Everybody knows they're, targeting their coordinates. So it's not going to end up well for NATO. And as already Mr. Lavrov stated many times, it's not going to end up for the United States proper well either, because continental United States and its assets will be affected by means of being annihilated. So if they want to play this game, that's what most likely Mr. Belousov told to Austin. Well, sure. Let's do it. And as I already stated, Russians have been on record. And those people who do not understand, I will give you I can assure you that knowing the mood in Russia, for the most part is ready to go global if it comes down to it. Of course, another matter that of United States having no serious conventional capability, it will go nuclear. because it has no ability to win wars, conventional wars. So, and that's what was this all about. And things are developing pretty much the same way from Ukrainian side, as you understand. They, Mr. Zelensky loves to talk. He loves to have this tough talk. And he said that was too fearful of escalation with Russia. Zelensky says Kiev is working to erode the concerns of its foreign backers. The Ukrainian leader has said Ukraine is pushing NATO nations to create a coalition that would attempt to intercept Russian missiles. Well, sure, yeah, and obviously West is very reluctant because they are really good only at talking. Fighting real war, not so much. And so Mr. Zelensky is desperate, and as you might understand, as it was happening each time, it was Avdiivka, it was Bakhmut, it was all kinds of the catastrophic defeats of armed forces of Ukraine in their Western curators. Each time the situation was bad, they came up with all kinds of news that they just bombed Russia into oblivion. They sunk, 250 ships, 200, submarines and things of this nature. So obviously all Western media, which are utterly corrupt and run by the imbeciles, basically, such as Associated Press yesterday, they report what General Staff of Armed Forces of Ukraine tells them. So they might as well, as I already stated many times, why don't they turn on the Die Deutsche Wochenschau from 1945 when they were reporting how Wehrmacht, just killing those Russians and about to, go back to Moscow. So, but what can you say? These are Western media, and they have no integrity or any kind of the professional qualities to even pass the judgment. But reality on the front is this. As you can see yourself, yesterday, we have yet another, look at this, this is a great harvest. So we have 12 tanks and APCs, 38 armored vehicles, 34 artillery mortars, 162 UAVs have been shot down. Yet another Su-27 was shot, of the Ukrainian Air Force was shot down by the Russian air defense complexes. And we have now the 1,905 personnel killed and wounded. And as I already stated, multiply it easily by 2, and you will get probably the number of the killed. So if that hasn't been enough, this is the photo screenshot of New York. No, not that New York, No, New York in Donbass. As you can see yourself, this FAB 1500 goes and hits the, one of the ammunition depots of the armed forces of Ukraine. Then there was Iskander, actually yesterday killed 80 so-called foreign volunteers. So there is a lot of going on, and Russians, as I already stated, they are fighting, they're mopping up New York. But there is another thing which is really, really bad for them. As was confirmed, and again, even this map is not up to date. As you can see yourself, Russians are already on the outskirts of Toretsk. So, while they will be inside the Toretsk center very soon, again, there is no necessity to really rush this. Everything is, just proceeds as planned. And this is happening all over the whole length of the front line. And if you can see the scale, the right lower angle, you will see yourself that the advance was more than, around 3 kilometers at least. And as you can see yourself, Russians are fighting in Toretsk now. Actually, again, as I already stated, this map is not up to date. But here is what it's happening there. If you take a look at the whole thing about New York and Toretsk, you see those pincers? Yeah. And yesterday, as you can see yourself, New York is, pretty much done. They are now trying to resist at the outskirts of New York. You can see the axis, so to speak, which will close, and it is obviously everything what is inside those pincers is going to die. So there you go. That's it's operational Cauldron. It's not tactical yet, but I would say what we have about maybe 5 kilometers at best, more than enough to cover it, full fire control to any force trying to escape. So this is happening all over the front, and that is why they're so desperate, and that is why, they talk about, all kinds of garbage. So, and if that hasn't been enough, there are also all those inspiring news, honestly, and inspiring, I'm being facetious, of course. I'm being sarcastic. And after the history with the Starliner, you know what? I don't know. I'm not a believer anymore. I always said that there is this outstanding technological expertise in the United States, but now it's just basically, how to put it politely, it's concentrated in a very few spheres. Most of it, like the stock market, is the virtual thing. And let me show you something. As if it wasn't known. Come on, we know this. So here it is. This is news from a week ago. And Air Force taking a pause on a new generation air, fighter, air dominance fighter, which is supposed to be sixth generation. And there, as always, very many, fanboys. They, drew all those images of this thing, like, oh my God, it's gonna be even cooler than Top Gun Maverick, and so on. And yeah, it's boring now. You know that whatever they try to do, they are not capable to come up with the proper solutions which will be effective on the battlefield, because they never faced real battlefield. U.S. Air Force, since Korea and Vietnam, to a certain degree, never faced any serious battlefield. Well, what can I say? And you compare the combat scores of Russians, for example, today, and U.S. Air Force in the 21st century, it's really laughable. So, and in comparison for the United States, which really has very little to show for all those, fluffy words and big rhetoric. And here we are. Here's Mr. Secretary Frank Kendall. U.S. Air Force says that we're taking a pause here. Kendall said today at the Life Cycle Industry Days conference. With the platform itself, we are taking a pause. With the rest of the elements of the air dominance family systems, we are moving forward as fast as we can. So Kendall didn't precisely specify how long the service plans to field the next generation air dominance fighter may be pushed out, casting the pause as consistent with the previous comments on taking a hard look at the jet's design. I can give you explanation. I know the explanation. Anybody who has, again, half brain and who has the proper military engineering background, they have the idea what is going on. They just looked at the fate of the Ukrainian Air Force and what has been done and what Russian VKS air space forces are. That involves air defense and Russian Air Force. U.S. Air Force is not designed to fight that. And it's basically, as I already stated, operationally, conceptually, it's now lagging by a generation. It doesn't matter what kind of stealth it is. Once you encounter S-350 Vitis, it doesn't matter. You cannot just escape it. It's just physics of this. You can reduce the risk, but it's not a magic pill. Other than in terms of performance, obviously, American fighters and American planes hasn't been in the same league since Russians started producing actually Su-30s. And then when you have there is a serial production and it's an increasing of Su-57. It's the only stealth fifth generation fighter which has an immense combat score, and it's also Su-35s and Su-57s. They have the world records on shooting down targets so much beyond vision range that many in U.S. Air Force are feeling butthurt, honestly, frankly. And this is a real war, guys. And whatever they have been creating, from the, those mastodons of the aircraft carriers to all those tanks, the ground systems and all kinds of things of this nature, they failed miserably. It failed miserably in Ukraine. And this is what is happening right now. They understand that now everything they have to come up with has to be so good. Not some kind of the expensive junk they produce to sell it to their, chihuahuas in Europe. Like this lame duck F-35. And what can I say? It is, this is the end, as Jim Morrison endorsed saying. It is completely different paradigm. It is completely different technological, and it is completely different warfare paradigm. And United States never adapted, as I already stated, read my lips. Anything United States today deploys is the TOE of the 1990s force. TOE being table of organization and equipment. The only thing, as I already stated many times, United States has is, of course, it's ISR. For now, it is best in the world, Russia being second one. But, well, that also is changing, if you know what I mean. And in conclusion today, there is a very interesting situation here that New York Times writes about that war shatters dating scene for women in Ukraine. So while the pursuit of love might seem secondary to dealing with the horrors and privations of the war, many Ukrainians say they need romantic relationship to help them cope. Okay, yeah, sure, okay, nothing wrong with that. So love exists even during the war, and Ukraine obviously doesn't really face the real war. I mean, God forbids. But here it is. This is what yesterday New York Times in this article makes a very interesting admission. And those people who understand fundamental calculational methods in mathematics, it's actually algebra primarily, that, well, have it in your mind, on the back of your head, to figure out what does this phrase mean. But it means so much. Hear what they say. According to the Institute of the Statistics from Kiev, Russia full-scale invasion has upended nearly every facet of daily life in Ukraine. 2/3 of Ukrainians have lost a relative or friend to the conflict. Hours-long backouts, and just think about it. And this is one of those accidental drip of truth which has to be understood. Again, nobody, they do not exist. Nobody in Washington D.C. have ability to grasp it, because it's basically perfumed, staff generals who never fought real serious war in their life. And America doesn't know what real war is. It really doesn't. And so here it is. I will repeat it for you. Russia full-scale invasion has upended nearly every facet of daily life in Ukraine. 2/3 of Ukrainians have lost a relative or friend to the conflict. So, do you know what it means? That means I was correct all along when I started to say that those accidental truths dropped by Kiev itself. The number of KIAs is in above million. Russia essentially killed off the whole generation of the fanatical, Russophobes. And now guess what? Look up the news from Kovel. And Kovel is the Western Ukraine. There are riots now there against their mobilization. But they wanted, those Russophones to fight for them. Now, when the war came to them, they are rioting. Well, too late, buddies. Your generation, and I know it sounds horrible. I'm in no ways, applaud this. It's a tragedy, actually, because for any loss of life is always a tragedy, albeit however Bandera and Nazi-oriented they are. But the point is, so we're looking at least 2.5 million losses in Ukraine, whose population at this stage something around 20 million people say. So yeah, plus minus. So you're looking at more than 10% of population being consumed. And this is the so-called best, quote-unquote, youngest and most capable consumed by this war, special military operation. So as even some other Western sources say that Russians doing this lost in 2.5 years 64,000 KIAs. You can take you can make your own conclusions on the matters of the kill ratios. It is a slaughter of Ukraine, and the way it was constructed and created by the Western curators, primarily United States and those chihuahuas from London, and they pay the price. And the West will pay the price with them, because Moscow or BRICS people, Beijing, they know what is happening. They were expecting this collapse, and it will continue. It doesn't mean that it will collapse all today. It probably will collapse, throughout several of the events of this nature. And again, they will do as they always do it, for the last, 30 years. They will print more money, thus, basically creating the inflation, which will be unsustainable. And this is what I wanted to tell you guys today. And as always, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee and two. And with this news, I leave you now. And yeah, this is your food for thought. And I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.